So I was thinking about doing another video. I was thinking about doing just a straight up recount of probably the most significant time that I went through a DMT breakthrough. But I want to go a bit deeper than that because I don't think that just sharing that particular experience is sufficient to sort of get across how strange and unique this substance is. And I've been doing a lot of research in recent years. This was about 2 years ago, a little over. And it was funny because I felt like I had to go through mountains of training with the actual substance, getting my ass kicked by it, going through multiple bad trips, and feeling like I just made it out by the skin of my teeth, and then basically running out and then getting more and having some really profound experiences, but nothing like what a lot of people would talk about. And it was almost like I couldn't allow myself to go past it until I understood exactly what that meant. And I actually heard somebody mention it recently that on their second hit, they saw the room and everything was eyes. That's what I saw. And it's funny because in this video, I should probably link it in the description. This person does their trip report, and they specifically outline the concept of I amness. And I think it's not a coincidence that this person truly registers that in their minds, so that when they came to this space where everything was an I, it didn't bother them. But when I first saw that, it blew me away. And the reason was because I was communicating directly with these eyes, and it was like I had been forever, and they were always aspects of my thoughts, but then I could see everything becoming round, and then also seeing that all these very small details in the reality were actually eyes, like a light fixture and basically anything else, but more so I feel like they were choosing these vortices in my vision to manifest themselves through. So the way that I got DMT the first time was actually a blessing and a miracle. It came out of nowhere. I can't remember exactly who gave me the number, but the guy who I met who like I picked up for multiple people, and he was just very kind, and he ended up giving it to me, and he was like, I don't want to take money. And months later, see, I have there's a trip experience where I'm sitting out on my patio, and I'm smoking it out of a bowl, and I take 3 huge hits, and I close my eyes, and I feel like I'm soaring. And then I stop, and I instinctively, there's this internal dialogue. There's no stopping it. It's like so instantaneous, like I know what's happening, and here's my response. And I get to this point where I slow down, and I know that I'm at a door. I can't see a door, but I can feel a door. And when I actually asked, it's funny because you wouldn't have to ask if you could enter. You would just enter. However, I stopped and I went, can I enter? And another aspect of me was like very, very specifically like, no, not right now. And when I come down from this, see, my ego was very blown up at the time. So when I come down, I didn't even come down. I actually opened my eyes at the second that I heard no, and immediately I was back in my body. But I was always in my body. It's strange. I was sort of resuming my body, and I'm immediately like, what? Fuck that. So I grab the bowl, and I take 2 more hits, and so here's what happens. I go into this state where reality becomes completely fluid. It's not that it's another dimension separated from this one. It's that it is another higher, more complex dimensionality of the reality I'm already looking at. And what happened is the fence in front of me on my backyard patio kind of thing. It's just a concrete slab. I'm sitting flat on the ground, and the fence in front of me starts to warp, like, and there's a voice in my head, something. Oh, I had closed my eyes again after I took those 2 hits, and for maybe 10 seconds, flipping through these strange geometries, and then seeing it was like I didn't go to the place that I wanted to go. Instead, I just went to these other places, and I saw this statue that kind of looked like a computer chip, kind of sticking out of a motherboard, except it was huge, and it's like the motherboard almost looks like a desert, but everything is alive, and the statue is like, it's got walls around it, and it's like I'm in the desert. It literally looked like Shangri-La. Like, I saw pictures of Shangri-La later on, and I remember thinking, like, wow, these temples look a lot like the ones that I saw. And this statue, I see it, and I remember thinking briefly, like I had no words. And then suddenly at the moment I was able to sort of respond, it looked at me. Like I felt like it saw me. And when it saw me, it was like, oh, buddy, I got you. And I immediately opened my eyes. I was like, what the fuck? And as I look out, the fence starts to warp and kind of bend up into the air and backwards. And I'm looking over at the shorter fence that's on the side that separates the rest of the apartments where the walkways are from my backyard. And these people walk by and they're all laughing, and my feeling is that all these motherfuckers they know exactly what's going on. They're laughing at me. I'm a fucking dumbass. I should not have made that decision. Like it wasn't tripping itself, it was the way I did it, and I knew that I shouldn't have done that in that moment. And so I look over and I hear myself say this, and then I go, something about it was like, but they don't even know that they're in on a joke. It's like they're here to be laughing at this exact time that it would bother me this much, and they're laughing about their own thing, but the synchronicity is that they just walked up at that exact time to freak me out with their laughing. Like, they don't actually consciously, they're not doing it to me, they're just doing it, and it's affecting me, and it's like they align perfectly. And this being was like laughing at me like, damn, you're a dumbass. And I remember getting up. I'm twitching, like my neck is twitching, and my heart is twitching, my all everything is like fidgeting and twitching. My muscles are twinging, literally twinging, like squeezing, and instantaneously over and over and over again. It was like this being got into me and was like zip, 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 and it's fucking with me. And so I get up and I'm looking around and I'm like, fuck, I'm glitching out. What the fuck do I do? And so I'm walking around my apartment and I'm thinking like, oh, this is deja vu. I've done this before. How many times have I done this before? And I'm freaking out. And actually, as I'm becoming more conscious of all these feelings and the aspects of this trip, I'm actually coming out of it bit by bit. But I'm not even 5 minutes after I took those last 2 hits, so I'm still not coming down. I'm deep in this trip, and I'm finally like kind of unfurling from this glitching, and I'm able to draw up enough courage to just blast out my front door and go to my my buddy's house who I worked with, who was the other guy who got the Deemz. And I knock on the door. I'm like, yo, I need familiar faces right now, dude. I'm freaking out. And he's like, oh, okay, come on in then. And I go out onto the porch and I smoke cigarette after cigarette after cigarette, and they all, each one of them, because there's 3 people in this apartment and I know all of them, and so each one of them comes up to me and I'm telling them like, I'm fucking traumatized, dude. Like, you don't know what I just saw. But at the end of the day, I start to come out of it and I start to laugh about it. And it's funny because this ends up being a precursor. And this is one of many precursors, but most of them were small trips. And I had very intense realizations during those small trips. I would take 1 hit or 2 hits and I would go out and I would look around. I'm like, you know what? Every fucking time I dream, I feel like this. I feel like this fucking chemical. I smell it. I feel it like it's there in my dreams. This is dreaming. I'm dreaming. And I start kind of unfurling from that, and finally, like, the realization I had was that life is a form of dreaming. And so life is kind of like a dream inside of something, and then inside of your life you can have many dreams. And it started to occur to me that there's this kind of fractal pattern of all aspects of life, like whether it be power or being social or hierarchy or weapons or destruction or love or anything. It's fractal. So it's present here, and it's present somewhere behind you in this extra dimension, and then it's present in all the things in your reality down to the deepest level. And finally, all of this finally culminates to, I'm out of DMT. I think I was like meditating for, at this point, like 3 hours at a time. I was very serious. What I was doing was I had discovered that if I guided my chemicals in sober states, I could get into the same trip states that I was in on my heaviest doses, and that I could then integrate the wisdom and knowledge that comes from it and somehow stabilize it in my life. And I would do that over and over and over again. I was changing every single day extremely fast. And there were a lot of things that I wasn't tackling. And so it actually took me years to do the rest of the integration, and that kind of leads up to this previous winter. But anyway, I'm at home, and my buddy got plenty. He's got plenty. But my coworkers come by, and I'm like, I remember I'm just sitting there, and I think I'm in a bad mood or something. I don't know what it was. I think I was like in a bad place. I was broke, and I was probably mad at my roommate. I think this was around the time that he was like stealing weed from me in the middle of the night or something. And he comes up, my coworker or some of her friends are there, and they were like wanting to try it. And he's like, "What, do you want to smoke some too? Like, you know, why don't you come hang out?" And so we go into their room, because this is like a real stoner pad. Like I live in the kitchen on a mattress, and then homeboy lives on the couch, and then 2 people live in the bedroom. And this is after I had to move in with them because of all kinds of stuff. Like, I couldn't afford an apartment alone in Portland, Oregon. It was crazy. So I go into this bedroom, and I sit against this door, and they all pass it around, and it comes to me, and I think Alex does his after. But he was guiding me. He was like, "One more hit. All right, dude, one more hit. No, you need to go through with it." And what I saw was so unexplainable, because I've seen in my breakthrough before this, I saw a checkerboard city-like place, MC Escher style. It only lasted a couple minutes, and I was chasing this being, and it was black. It was made of space. It was a black hole somehow, but it was a human figure, and it was running arms and legs through this kind of like obstacle course, and I couldn't catch it. And at the end, I was like, I feel like if I had just slowed down just to look at it, if I had just seen it moving clearly, I would have won. But I felt like I was kind of racing with this being, and the fact that I was chasing it was the reason that I lost. And now I'm sitting here, and this is the weirdest, absolute weirdest thing that I've ever seen, because I can't explain it. I didn't go down a hallway. Nobody guided me there. Nobody told me, like, "Oh, we're gonna go down this hallway of infinite information and memories." There was no linear gap. Like, I took this, and I closed my eyes, and my vision forms, and what I see is purple fields going out, and where I am looks like an attic. And I actually, now that I'm saying it, feel like I was seeing an extra, like literally I was beyond my brain, but I wasn't anywhere. Like I didn't get pulled. I didn't go to another place. I didn't go to another reality or another dimension. I straight up was looking through this building that looked like kind of like an attic. I had the sense that I was in the attic because I could see the ground outside of the opening, and it was lower. It was very distant and low compared to where I was relative to the data I was getting. I can't explain how I saw it because I didn't see it with my eyes. I completely saw it with my frontal lobe. Like the pineal gland releases piezoelectric crystals and can create light. However, the complexity of this is just mind-boggling. And I'm looking. It literally looks like if you were sitting in your pineal gland, and at the edge of your pineal gland is a little opening, and it's literally like cut into corners, like straight like this, like it's got, you know, 1 beam, 2 beams, 3 beams, 4 beams, and then there's a circular window. And you're sitting in your pineal gland, but it feels like the attic of a house. And outside of that is just these purple rolling fields just going. But what was weird about it was that I really felt like I was seeing something that it was like if you woke up from the Matrix and you saw your pod and you were like, and then you just go back to sleep and back into the Matrix, except it wasn't traumatizing. I just woke up in this room and I'm like, what? And I kept saying that. I was like, what? This cannot be. I didn't even care if it was real or not. I was like, it can't be. I'm looking out a window in an attic, and there's just purple rolling hills and fields out there. And I feel like this is where I actually am, and that my life is like a dream supplanted in whatever life that is that's in that attic. And I'm like, I don't understand what it means. Like, if the entire universe was a body, all right, and it had a pineal gland and everything else, it was like the human body. If the entire existence was like a human body, and then there was even an outside that we just can't access because we can't get to that level of ourselves yet. It's like I was just peeking out of the pineal gland of our bigger body, and I'm seeing it looked like a totally static, totally like nobody else around, totally static world. But everything was still, it was the most alive I had ever seen anything, and it wasn't moving. I have seen all kinds of stuff in my shroom trips, acid trips, DMT trips. I've seen hallways and infinite eyes and these beings that I know are there that are like inundating me with knowledge, and I'm like, okay, all right, and I'll go through it with them. But this particular, like, nobody came with me, nobody tried to explain it, nobody was like, oh, this is what you just saw, like, we can explain that. I was just completely dumbfounded, like, it can't fucking be. It can't be that this is what I'm seeing. I was like, there's no explanation at all. Because I kept trying to justify, like, maybe I'm actually looking out of my pineal gland, out of my forehead somehow. But yet I'm thinking, like, but then I would have seen the figures of the energies of the people around me. I would have had some sensory feedback to confirm that vision I was having was actually the reality I was already in. But no, it was like a planet, and I was in a body. I was stuck in the body's head, looking out of the opening. It's one eye, and its one eye has these diagonal cross sections, and there are just purple rolling hills, and there's nobody around. It was like nobody arrived. It was so strange. But with that said, I'm 10 seconds into my recording space. So that's a deep trip report. That's how I built up to it, and that's really what it led to. I don't know what it means. Maybe you do. So let me know. Peace and love.